I'm not too sure how the other camera or tech reviewer work with the manufacturers, but for me, quite often when I'm reviewing a product, especially if it's a new product, I would like to provide feedback to the manufacturer and do it as soon as possible, especially if I found some issues, so that we can try to work out what the issue is. And sometimes that means the product launch may be delayed because they want to fix the issues. So this review supposed to happen quite a few months ago, but because I found some issues and report back to the manufacturer, they look into it and they found a fix for it so that they update the product, and that's why only till now I can finally work on this review. And I am not reviewing the S1H, which I have already done a long time ago. The product I'm reviewing is the camera cage for the Lumix S1H from Nitze. Kia ora, good morning everyone, Rich Wong here, welcome back to the channel. So in this video we are going to have a look at the camera cage made by Nitze for the Panasonic Lumix S1H, and I think how we should do this video is I'm going to install the cage with you guys together, and at the same time I can talk about the feature, the design of the cage, and also the things that I like and some of the things I don't really like about this cage from Nitze. Okay, so let's get started. And the first thing you should do is actually not to mount it onto the camera straight away. The first thing is there is a little plate here that you should mount it onto the front of the cage, and the reason why we do it now first, it's using the two of the smallest screws for that, not the bigger one. And the reason why we want to do it now first is just it's just a little bit easier. You could do it after you put the cage onto the camera, but do it first, just make it easier when you want to tighten it up, because otherwise there will be a lens here that make it a little bit harder for you to tighten up these two screws here. And the reason why there's a plate here is just to make it more secure, like lock the camera more securely when you have the cage onto it, so that it wouldn't move around so much. And what you can also do after this is install, is it this one? Yes, mounting bracket onto the top, which is for the NATO grip that we will install a little bit later on. And this one is using the bigger bolt, not the small one. And this position is adjustable, so if you want to make it a little bit more left or right, you can do it, but normally I just like to mount it right at the center. So make sure you tighten up this one securely, because especially if you're going to put a grip on it, you need to make sure this is securely so that it won't detach from the cage. Alright, now you have this plate and this top plate both mounted. You can now mount the camera onto the cage. Because the Lumix S1H is pretty video centric camera, the tripod mount, there are two mounting holes here, and the cage, it make use of that design so that there are actually two screws for you to lock the position of the cage more securely, so that it doesn't twist so easily once you install it onto it. And it should also be quite secure as well. Yeah, there's not much play. You can't really twist the cage so much. Okay, next we can secure another plate onto the bottom of the cage. So look at these three screws here, so you can pick the one that you like. Normally I use the one in the middle. Right, and is it this one? No, it's this one. Now, one thing that I don't really understand is nothing really is particular about this cage, but cage in general, usually they use quite a few different size bolt, so you need a few different size Allen key or hex key, which I thought it might be a good idea to just try to make it to use one size. Probably there are reasons like one size probably wouldn't fit all, but it just sometimes make it a little bit more more like a hassle. You have to have all the different kind of Allen key, and also you need to have a little con here, so you need to have quite a few different tools for you to install the cage onto the camera, or when you want to take it off, you also need all the tools. So I think if someone can come up with a single size or single way to mount all the bolts and screws and all the different things onto the cage, so without having to use all the different tools, I think that would be fantastic. And now there's one more thing we should mount, which is the HDMI cable clamp, which should the HDMI connector is here, so the cable clamp should go to these two holes here. And I would say don't fully tighten up these two screws, so that you can still move it forward and backward, so that you can just put the HDMI cable here, tighten up this side, and then you will tighten up these two bolts at the end. I do have one little problem with this HDMI cable clamp that comes with this cage, is that I'm not too sure if it's because the cable that I have is a little bit too thick. I mean the connector here. When I try to put it through this cable clamp, I couldn't actually get it through. It is not thick enough, or I should say my cable is actually too thick, so I couldn't actually put it through. So yeah, I have talked to Nitze about that. Probably in the future they will make this HDMI cable clamp a little bit wider, so that even if you have a slightly thicker HDMI cable connector like this one, you can still fit it through. So right now I can't really use it, but I will still secure it, lock it onto the cage. This is pretty much the basic cage for the S1H. All the ports on the side is still accessible. The LCD monitor, you can still flip it out, no problem. You want to tilt it, not a problem. The memory card door here, no problem, you can access it. And the same thing about the battery door at the bottom, no problem getting the battery in or out. And overall, I think the ergonomic is okay, pretty okay. I mean, if you install a cage, now the camera will be a little bit more bulky, but overall, I think the design of the cage is pretty nice, so it doesn't affect the ergonomic too much. All the buttons are still reasonably easy to access. I think apart from the white balance, if you have a big finger, you may have a little bit of trouble hitting the white balance, but for me, my finger is not too big and I can still reach it. The red record video button, still okay, and down, front down, back down, not a problem. The wheel here, you can still access it pretty easily. So overall, it doesn't affect the operation of the camera too much. And now we have a cold shoe mount here, so that if you want, you can install a monitor or other accessories here. the top here and lock it securely onto it. And then there are lots of different mounting holes on the side, and then also the bottom of the cage, and some of them have the area locating holes, so that if you have accessory that take advantage of the area locating pin, then once you install it, then the accessory mounted on it wouldn't twist at all. So that's very nice. Okay, let me take it out first. Alright, so this is pretty much how you would have the cage configured if you want to shoot it handheld or have the maximum portability. But that's only the starting point. The cage also comes with a few extra components. Alright, let me take the monitor out first so that I can show you the other parts. The first thing, we have the NATO grip that you can install onto the top of the cage here. The grip feels very solid. It's not too, like, the design is not too complicated. It has quite a few different mounting holes on the top side with the area locating holes as well, and there's a cold shield mount at the front. And also, if you want, you can actually change the direction of the handle. So what you need to do is just to unlock this bolt here at the top, and then you can turn it sideways or turn it around, depends on what you want. So let me put it back to the original position. Alright, and it also has this bit that you can mount onto the front of the grid, so that if you want, you can then install a rod onto here. This one is probably too long, but yeah, if you want to install a monitor, then you can use a rod to attach some extra accessories. Right, let me lock it. And then the next thing that you can do is the base plate. So it comes with this base plate that you can easily attach to the plate that we have previously installed. You can just lock it. It's pretty easy. So you have to lock it like this, and now you can install the rod onto it. So this would be good if you want to mount, for example, a follow focus system or Mac box or some other accessories. Then you can use these two rods to help you to do that. For example, I have just recently bought this Nitze follow focus system, which is a very nice one. Now this lens is probably not a good example, but yeah, you can do something like this if you are using a cine lens that has the gear on it, or if you bought this one, it also comes with an attachment thing so that you can attach the like a gear thing onto a normal lens and turn it into a lens that can be controlled using the follow focus system. But yeah, this follow focus system is not part of the cage. It's just something I bought recently. And if you look at the bottom of the base plate, it has the dovetail clamp here for you to attach the camera onto a standard airy dovetail plate. Oh, before I finish, there's also the holes on both sides of the cage here for you to attach a neck strap if you want to use one. So overall, I think this is a pretty solid and pretty well designed cage. The only issue that I have is the HDMI cable clamp, which is a little bit too narrow for my HDMI cable at least. But apart from that, everything seems to be pretty good, pretty well designed. The quality seems to be very good. The cage itself is actually pretty lightweight, it's not too heavy. But of course, once you install everything onto the S1H altogether, then it is a pretty heavy setup. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you have any questions about this cage, just feel free to drop a comment below. Thanks again for watching this video, and I will see you in my next video.